Hey.
Hello there. Your camera's very foggy.
Is it? Oh, that's the old computer. I was thinking maybe I better use this one, but
Okay.
can you see a little
Yeah.
bit better now? Okay.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
okay.
It was maybe a matter of angle.
Hmm.
But you hear me okay?
Yep.
Or shall I hold it like this? Yeah. I have a bit of background noise, so I'm wearing the headphones. Yeah.
Hmm.
Cool. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Yasmin, is it?
Yeah, it's Yasmin. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Very good. Yeah, very good. Hmm.
Yeah. This is lovely. I mean, I just kind of thought of like having this chat about nothing.
Yeah.
Um, as I really enjoy listening to your videos.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I kind of like that warmth and the uncompromising message, you know.
Hmm.
It's not really a question, but more like a wish to just chat, sort of. Yeah,
Yeah, nice. Nice.
yeah.
Did you discover this communication via a speaker of some kind or?
Yeah, yeah, a couple speakers actually.
Hmm.
A few years ago, I must say. Yeah, it sort of started with Tony Parsons, but I had actually read a book by Tony Parsons, not The Open Secret, but another one, you know,
Hmm.
like a transcript of his talks. It was called As It Is, many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And then during the pandemic, it kind of came, you know, like full circle because suddenly during this non-duality conference that was kind of set up, I discovered. Oh, I said, oh, is that the Tony Parsons, you know, that wrote that book at the time that I bought like years ago, which was so wild, and I just sort of like read it at the time, but then it was kind of in the back of my mind, like not really, you know, anything that happened.
Hmm.
But then it kind of came full circle, and I started listening, yeah, to Jim Newman, and then it's like Kenneth, you know, I love Kenneth's expression, the clarity,
Hmm.
um, and um, and then gradually something seems to have shifted, let's say, in the story, and it's just at this point it feels like this enjoyment of just listening to this, and yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah, also went to like meetings, but at a point where there were not really any questions left, but it was more like this, yeah, love of travel combined with meeting lovely people and stuff like that, you know.
Hmm. Nice. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Basking.
yeah, yeah, and it's like obviously in let's say in the daily life you can't really, you know, you're not really sharing this or talking about this, so it's kind of a nice way to have an exchange or, you know, whether or not you go to an actual meeting, but even in the Zoom sometimes, or yeah,
Hmm.
but I really love the way you're, you know, I can kind of see that warmth, and yet it's also uncompromising. Like it feels this, there's not, it's not like, how can I say this? Maybe like a whitewashed version of the whole thing, you know, because sometimes there's a little bit of a mix of like, you can sense how sweet a character is, but at the same time, there's like a um, you feel kind of talked to, like a, you know, it's like a personal thing, and yeah, so I really enjoy listening to you.
Hmm.
Recently, I discovered your videos, so yeah,
Hmm. Oh, sweet.
yeah.
Hmm. Where are you based, Jasmine?
I'm currently in Istanbul, but um, I'm a little bit here, a little bit there. So not currently, I mean, I'm not constantly at one place, but
Hmm.
so I've been to Germany, Cologne for a couple months now, and recently traveled over, and then I'll go to some other place now. So I'm traveling a little bit, but most of the time, or some of the time in Istanbul, yeah.
Hmm. Oh,
Mm.
lovely. Is that where
Yeah.
you're from originally?
Sorry.
Is that where you're from originally?
Yeah, originally, but I was born and raised in Germany and kind of moved here yeah, over a decade ago, let's say. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so when I was in Germany, I also joined another meeting. Like I went to Kenneth's Munich meeting, and yeah, I kind of like the atmosphere, or let's say the just being kind of having that, chat, let's say,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
just listening. Actually, not really a chat because I don't really ask anything because it doesn't come up really.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Nothing to find out or to learn or to know. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's crazy. I was just thinking about like the love of travel. Like I used to travel a lot, and it's still like there's still an enjoyment with travel, like but somehow like the sense of place has kind of fallen away. So
Yeah.
there's not a real, like not that it ever was 100% real. Like it wasn't, like okay, so this is definitely a place called New York or whatever, and I love it. Yeah, I love it. But it was always a little bit unreal as well. But now it's like completely. I love that word collapse that you would use, like it kind of collapsed that sense of an actual reality and or a place or in that sense. So
Hmm.
it's kind of wild. It's
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Wilderness.
Complete
Wilderness is,
wilderness, yeah.
yeah, it's all there is.
I mean, yeah. And the wild thing is I find because it's so hard to talk about this, like to describe this. It's always like language is obviously limiting and like I work in the field of language, and so there's a love of words here, but at the same time it's always kind of limiting because obviously you cannot not have a position to
Hmm.
kind of it's always an attempt to describe, and then it's indescribable and.
Yeah. Yeah. Indescribable, impossible to describe. Yeah. And descriptions and explanations and concepts and suggestions are also what is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and getting kind of there's I find it astonishing because in another context there would be like here for my character, let's say as I said, like the love of words, or how do you express this or that, or and here there is no like, oh, what does that word mean, or you know what I mean, like it is actually doesn't mean anything, but
Mm.
like saying energy or saying it's boundless, it's unknowable, and there is not an it, and it's all kind of story, and it's endless, like you can go on and on. It's a story, a story, a story, and yeah, it's completely wild.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Mm. Do you prefer traveling to go to in-person meetings than
not
Zooms?
necessarily. No, no, I don't prefer that at all. Like I've only been to a couple of meetings,
Mm.
and it's all been it's all been via Zoom actually.
Mm.
And then I went to the meetings just to sort of like combine. It was kind of an excuse to travel, but like I said, it's not the same anymore, like in the sense of the sense of place or all of that.
Mm.
So I wouldn't say there is necessary. No, there's not really a preference in that
Mm.
sense.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
but yeah, obviously during the pandemic there were all kinds of you know stuff seemed to be popping up, and this conference was started, and I remember like joining a meeting, for example, by Jim Newman, and having these questions that are just completely like very far away in a way, like now, or feel kind of, yeah,
Mm.
it just doesn't come up. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So something like maybe gradually shifted or whatever, or like this non-event, but yeah, there's just a lot of like I was hearing in one of your talks with someone recently, like this sort of yes to a lot of what's being communicated or what's being shared, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seemed to be a gradual falling away, was it?
Yeah. You
Hmm.
could say that probably, you know, like, I don't know, like I think the character is kind of there full on, you know, like it, like anything can arise. So I heard you say, for example, that stuff like shame or guilt wouldn't arise anymore. And I wasn't sure if that was meant like more like your personal, for lack of a better word, experience,
Yeah.
or more like like it makes sense to me on some level, because that is kind of about something, you know, like so you think you could have done something differently, or you are doing something and then you could have chosen to do differently or stuff like that. But
Yeah.
in a way it's also limitless, it feels like here, like anything could arise, you know, like
Hmm.
not that
Yeah.
it does arise necessarily, but I get what you mean, I think. But yeah,
Hmm.
so it feels so because it's like everything, you know, already that is
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Certain things seem to totally fall away once it's revealed that there's no one, not just conceptually revealed, but seemingly energetically revealed. And obviously it becomes more and more obvious that flow is all there is, that
Mm-hmm.
everything is flowing. The speaking, listening, hearing, but birds, animals, nature, it's all flowing effortlessly by itself. Um, and yeah, time, space, um, and relating. Relating is a biggie because all the time there's
Mm-hmm.
this illusory dream. There seems to be a relating going on, relating to
Mm-hmm.
other people, but also relating to emotions, thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
perceptions. And this is where shame seems to appear, is relating to emotions and thoughts, opinions, beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
ideologies, and all of this and that. And when the whole separation dream collapses, that there are certain things that just do not seem to happen at all. Yeah. And that's why it's said, because relating everything, just all dimensions of this and that, just it all just totally collapses into immediacy. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
I like how you say that with the collapses into immediacy. I like that. Yeah.
hmm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's kind of wild, isn't it? Like this,
totally. Yeah.
you know, as you said, like there are no relationships in that sense, or a position, or even like saying you're like for or against something, or I mean, opinions. I mean, obviously there are preferences, and there's all sorts of things like anger or sadness, anything, grief, everything is full on, but
Mm,
um, it's not really someone's anger, or
mm,
it doesn't really linger, it seems. So
mm.
kind of like it can be really strong or intense, and then it can kind of at the same time almost like it dissipate, or like it's, yeah, just an appearance, just like
Yeah,
anything else, it seems.
yeah, yeah. Everything's full on bloom, and then and there's no time, so it's not even then it's gone. It's just there's just
Yes,
full on
yes,
aliveness.
yes,
You can't even
yes.
say constantly because it's just immediately full on aliveness. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Mm.
yeah. I like I mean, a lot of the um words you use as well, yeah. The way you describe it, and also the um there's so much laughter in your meetings, it seems, you know. I
Yeah,
crack up all the time. Like it's sometimes I'm like with these headphones, because it's a very busy city, like I walk around and I listen to this and then I crack up because it's like there's this laughter or something. It's just really Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's just fun, you know.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. A lot more laughter seems to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is good fun. Yeah. Mm. It's all very passionate and alive, you know, all by itself. It just seems to have an aliveness and a passionate energy, which
Mm.
can't be described. But yeah, it's really quite wonderful. Yeah.
Kind of unfiltered in a way, right?
Oh, utterly unfiltered. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's in a way that's the beauty of it. It's like the childlike nature. You know, if you want an honest opinion from someone about how you look, then just talk to almost any child and they'll just give.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Yes, yes,
And
yes.
it's a bit like that. I mean, obviously the opinion falls away too, seemingly, but well, preferences, but are still seemingly happening, but opinions seems to be a bit different. But yeah, the whole sort of unfiltered, raw, just spontaneous, immediate responding.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
it's so yeah, unfiltered. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you said, like the relating is so kind of like not there. So like when there's something like, oh, how could you say that or whatever, like the response is like there is no it just there is no alternative to, you could
Yeah.
have said or done something different or whatever. It's wild sometimes in the because we are always bombarded with like so many messages and directed at a person
Mm,
basically, like with
mm,
preferences, with a clear position, with choice, with the possibility to choose otherwise or whatever,
mm.
and it's just not, yeah. But that's not just for, where obviously not just for certain people, the chosen ones or something, because there's
Yeah.
no one at all, like
Yeah.
obviously that's already the case, yeah.
There's no one at all, and there's no choice or chooser. Yeah.
Mm. And
Yeah.
special and unspecial, for example, like for me there were special days or special occasions or experiences, even just with travel, like this. It was about kind of sort of like this idea of investing in experiences, and that sort of thing, or collecting a lot of beautiful experiences and things like that, and it's just all kind of, yeah, not really there.
Yeah.
So
Sort of fell apart.
yeah, yeah, it's wild. I mean,
What did you get up to prior to discovering Tony Parsons and the Open Secret? As though there was a real past, obviously. We don't need
yeah,
to explain
yeah, yeah, obviously.
that.
Um, so for me, it was like, yeah, I did meditation for a while. It was never about really like enlightenment or anything, like
Mm,
seeking enlightenment, but more like really more comfort in for like the nervous system, for calming the nervous system down and like to be more grounded, fearless, all these kinds of things.
mm.
Just basically to feel better. So meditation and yeah, and the usual suspects, I'd say, probably, like with like Eckhart Tolle and all these kinds of speakers, Byron Katie, Muji for a little bit, Adyashanti, whatever,
I,
like the
I love
world.
I love that, the usual suspects.
It feels a bit like that because I feel like the same names repeated in many talks, so it
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah, it feels a bit like that. But anyway, so then and then initially there was like yeah, 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 I know you're saying there's no one, but what do you mean there's no meaning? Like stuff like that. There was like I think here it was also not really heard, or there was kind of like an aversion, like, what do you mean? Oh, that's nonsense. And then kind of turning it off and then listening again and hearing it completely differently later, but apparently later, but yeah.
Mm, mm.
So um yeah, I mean, these characters are still lovely, but it's it just doesn't land anywhere anymore. So there's no talk that I can really listen to by these that I was listening to in the story prior, like, so I think it's the thing is also it is in a way it cannot be unseen, so um yeah.
Yeah, once it's revealed that everything is unfolding effortlessly by itself. The body doesn't seem to be the same. There's the exposure of all there is and isn't. It's so radical. It seems, again, with an apparent before and after, it seems to be the body just can't seemingly unhear that. Yeah. Can't, unless it forgets and then goes back into contracted energy mode. And that's also what is, obviously.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
It seems like
Sure.
what I'm hearing you say is like once it's been like penetrated, that illusory construct of me has been penetrated, it's it's over, really.
It's kind of, no way back, and not that there's a back, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's so obvious that all attempts to go somewhere to get something, to improve or impress or become anything, are just so obviously futile, and that no one's even in there doing that. It's all, so even if seeking goes on, it's so obvious. Maybe not for the seeking energy, it could never really fully grasp its own illusory futile nature, but once it's been exposed, it's like even seeking is just wholeness. It's just freedom. There is only freedom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's so often misheard as like as if that this is a state, and then as a person you're trying to get into the special state or whatever, or it's better to
Yeah.
to sort of like have when this falls away or whatever, and it's not, because there is no better or worse. I mean, it's not like it's all now rosy and wonderful and great for someone, and like, I mean, there is no one. So
Yeah, it's
that's a bummer.
yeah. Well, it's a bummer for me, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the total end of the polarity in which me seems to live in and as.
Yes.
The polarity of better and worse, good, bad, right, wrong, desired, not so desired. All of this sort of polarity and neurotic craving of this illusory individual just totally falls apart. Yeah. And then, in a way, at least the sense was for this, is like everything is so radically allowed and alive because there's just the total absence of anyone trying to allow. There's just aliveness, and it's so free. Anger, sadness, and joy and sorrow, whatever the hell is happening, it's just so allowed and alive because there's just no one left with an agenda, with the apparent content, which there isn't any. There's just aliveness. So there's no longer any agenda with anything because there's no one having an emotion or a thought. It's just emotion and thought.
Thought arising. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, which might sound very nice to me.
Yes,
But
as if it's like this kind of Zen position of like not caring, whatever happens, there's an allowing, and you're kind of in this Zen state or whatever. It's not. It can be complete, like an outburst of whatever, as you said, like sorrow, grief, anger, anything, sadness. And that's also a story, but I heard it often say, and it kind of resonated, that it can be more intense even, like whatever arises, sort of, because it is unfiltered. It is just this immediacy, and it's not really someone's anger, but it's just anger, or it is fear, anxiety, whatever, anything, like all anxiety, all fear drops, or whatever. That's nonsense. That's trying to get to some state of peace for someone, and that's just,
Yeah, fear can still seem to appear. Anxiety seems to drop. Again, this is only for this thing, but anxiety seems to wither quite a substantial amount. Again, the measuring and the this and that, it all sounds so clunky, really, like that. But because a lot of a lot of the time, there was this separation experience. Worry seemed to be another thing about me and how I feel about these situations that I am in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm worried about my thoughts, and I'm worried about going to this place, and worried, like the sort of existential worry and the
Mm-hmm.
personal worry of trying to get things right seemingly totally collapses. So worry and anxiety seems to have collapsed almost entirely for this body, but it's not, I don't think it's impossible for that to appear. Like,
Mm.
if there's a situation where something quite, unsafe is happening, I don't know, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just
So you mean more like the psychological sort of like, yeah, the worry, the kind of ruminating about what the possible outcomes in the future,
yeah,
things like that, or
yeah, because all
yeah.
stories totally fall apart, and most worry is
Mm.
wrapped up in stories. Yeah,
Mm.
whereas fear is very sort of primal and visceral.
Mm.
Where so
Yeah, you will, yeah, of course, you will react when, or there's a reaction when a bus is coming, and it's kind of
yeah,
funny
exactly.
that just remembered how I used to sort of
Yeah,
like think, well, when there's no one who's, why aren't you getting run over by a bus and stuff like that? It's kind of this
yeah,
misconception of like,
yeah.
hearing it as if, or thinking that there is a me that actually prevents that.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, because worry, can seem to linger for days, and fear
Mhm.
is seemingly more immediate and
Yeah,
totally
that's true. That's
responding.
true.
And
So there
it's the
could be a
same.
thought arising, and the fear may be connected with that thought, but that's not a, like a sitting there and worrying for hours or something,
Mm. Mm.
probably, or I don't know if you mean it
Exactly.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same with anger and irritation and
Mm,
resentment. Anger, obviously, like, it's passionate, it's alive, it's full on it, and it would seem to serve a purpose for the body when there's a
mm,
dangerous situation. Um, but the whole sort of irritation, the resentment, the ruminating, and the story that seems to perpetuate that, this whole that would be the relating story again. So those sorts of things that add on to the visceral, raw, primal feeling,
hmm.
that the adding on, all of the adding
Yes,
on. Yeah,
kind of the aboutness, of things, about worrying about something that is kind of like at a distance. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Mm.
And did you notice any, like, for example, like, because we talked about like this whole relating thing kind of collapses, that there's this uh there can be like question marks from so-called others, like for example, there has been maybe a conflict or something, and it kind of dissipates so quickly and then the other person is still in that, well, you said yesterday, whatever, things like that. Does that happen or seem to appear for you?
It can happen.
It's kind of like,
But
how come you're so calm, you were so upset 2 minutes ago,
yeah,
or things like that, or
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yesterday there was quite a difficult situation, and it was, full on aliveness, and there was an explosion, and anger, and it was unfiltered. It was just like, well, this situation is painful. There's pain
Mhm.
happening, and there was like a response, and then boom, done, like gone. Um,
Mhm.
and pain and sadness can appear, you know, and it's all what's appearing here. It's just
Mm.
appearing. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Yeah. And the role I think you're kind of working with disabled children. You
Mm.
kind of said that it's kind of just continuing, and I loved what you said about like there is no actual helper or person to be helped, and that kind of all
Yeah.
drops, that idea also of like things that are in a way in the story can be useful, like therapy or whatever, or all kinds of things,
Mm.
that are sort of like there is no real helper or
Yeah, the savior, the victim, the perpetrator, the the practitioner, the teacher, the student, it all totally collapses. Yeah.
Mm.
So there's no position anymore. There never
Mm.
was really, just seemed to be. But yeah, this the lovely thing is that um since this has all seemingly percolated and deepened and unraveled, now this body simply goes into that apparent environment and just is there's just in loveness and play a lot of the time actually.
Mm.
There's no agenda with these kids. There's no agenda to fix them or change them. There's just a
Mhm.
total in loveness with the way they are as they are. They're just perfection, and there's still a responding to when
Mhm.
they're in pain, but they're not actually in a lot of pain a lot of the time. Some of them are,
Mhm.
but and when they are, there's a response, and that happens all effortlessly by itself. Um, but a lot of the time, it's just fun and playing and joy and
Mm.
responding. It's yeah, and there's no one in there. There's no one in that situation. There's no hierarchy at all, which is the wonderful thing because all the time there's this sense that there's someone going into an environment with an agenda. Hierarchy can seem to be happening, and certainly when it's a school environment, there's the whole teacher-student
Mhm.
relationship,
Yeah.
which subtly or grossly imposes that the student has something to learn and to improve. Uh,
Mm.
and that just doesn't happen in the sessions that Alexis does anymore. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, because it used to. There used to be like the sense that I'm there to teach them, you know,
Mhm.
and they if I've done a good job, they'll be listening to me and they'll be doing what I say and following, and that has totally collapsed. so so sometimes they just want to like there's these two kids who just love messing around and it's
Mhm.
absolutely delightful. So one of them just takes his socks off and throws them at me. So I'll just hide them and pretend that I'm not looking. And then when he's not looking, I'll just throw them back. It's the least
Mm.
conventional yoga session you will have ever seen. It's all spontaneous as well.
Mm.
There's no plan whatsoever. It's amazing. It's all
Mm.
just whatever's happening. It just happens all by itself without any intention
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Yeah.
Although I must say, for example, here it's like there's a love of like making lists, for example, like writing down stuff and then maybe half of that doesn't happen, but it's kind of like it seems to be like maybe the conditioning of the character or whatever. It's just like this, it's more in the sense, but also playful, like with ramblings, like ideas about what to do today or tomorrow or whatever it needs to be done, not just like work related, but anything. And and that still appears, but it's not really serious, It's kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's
exactly.
like it's like playful, yeah. It's a playful rambling list or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, this seems to expose the childlike nature which is already. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. I
Mm.
must say, yeah, that was already strong here, I think, for this character, like the playfulness, but yeah, even more now, more so.
Mm.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
it's the freshness of anything that seems to arise and um
Mm.
yeah.
Mm.
And so for you, it was also like sort of more like a gradual thing, I think, or like this
Yes.
kind of falling away in the story.
It seemed to be, yeah, there seemed to be a gradual unraveling
Mm.
of an illusory energy. Yeah. And then there would, on illusory occasion, there would be like a it's a bit like a light bulb, like there's a metaphor, but it's like it was a bit like a light bulb. It was dimming and dimming and dimming, and then it would like have an
Have a
electric,
moment.
yeah, buzz, you know,
Yeah.
and then it would dim, and
Mm.
it was a seeming gradual dimming, like a candle light or something, you know, just dimming. Whereas other light bulbs and flames, it's a bit more like full on and then full off, and you know,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's so hard to even describe, isn't it? Like I can't even really say like how,
yeah,
how would you
and
even say that?
you know, as as body, you know, goes on, seemingly basking in timeless immediacy, which doesn't make any sense as a sentence, but the whole sort of memory of time being a real linear path where there was once a process of
Mm.
me and being, or just a process of me doing this and that. This just fades. It's just even that seems to fade out. Like it's
Mm.
just that because there's no time, so there's no even sense that there was a real before. This is the immediate appearance of a memory, but there's no sense that that was in the past. It's just a memory. It's
Yeah.
and I and in a way that's just really difficult, if not impossible, to describe what
Mm.
that's like and what it even means. I mean, obviously, it doesn't mean anything, but it's
Yeah.
interesting.
I think I heard you say once that you're kind of like you said also again in a chat with someone that sort of like thankfully this collapsed. What was it because like or maybe I misheard that, I don't know. Like sort of almost like that you're kind of grateful for or for the collapse or that which makes it of course I think to the person sound like a carrot or something to attain or something. But I probably you meant it differently. Yeah.
Not sure when, and where that and how that happened. I mean, gratitude did seem to appear as dying was appearing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it seemed to be an impersonal gratitude. It was like the body was seemingly presenting more relaxed, more relieved,
Mm-hmm.
and more allowed to just be, because all the time it was seemingly, again, it sounds ridiculous, at least a little bit, but all the time this body was seemingly uh, inhabited by an illusory bubble of contracted energy. Um,
Yeah.
it was like it was burdened with this neurosis that it needed to be better somehow, that it needed to
Mm-hmm.
be more flexible, more strong, more wise, more mindful, more
Mm.
compassionate, or more. It's constantly about more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and as that seemingly was exposed that no one was ever in the body, that it was an empty house all along. um, Body seemed to present in an impersonal, thankful way,
Yeah.
because it's just for the first time in the adult life again, which is another story, but in the first time in the adult life of this body was it ever just allowed to be
Mm-hmm.
without any agenda, without any need to prove, impress, go this way or that way, just simply allowed to be. Because even on retreat, even on like retreats where, you know, you're taught and encouraged to relax, even that was an intention, you know,
Mm-hmm.
even like becoming more relaxed was another stress, like subtly stressful thing.
It makes you so not relaxed, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
and the
try to
body
be
would
relaxed.
relax, but there was
Yeah.
still the sense that it could be better. It could be even more relaxed, or
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so it was
It's
never
never enough.
satisfied,
It's never enough. It's never
never enough.
enough.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so yeah, the body seemed to be, you know, thankful to Tony for killing, for killing me. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, which is
yeah.
yeah, and the in loveness and the joy and the passion that's shared out
Mm-hmm.
of that total absence is it's so alive, and it's wonderfully not belonging to anyone or anything. There's no
Mm-hmm.
claiming of it. It's the end of ownership altogether. So it's like it's not even registering that there's another person hearing this that might get on board with it. It's like no, it's speaking to nothing. It's
Yeah.
nothing speaking, and the speaking is nothing as well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so beautiful. I mean, this is so wild and so beautiful. I
Mm,
mean, really,
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah,
There's this in loveness. There's just this in loveness, you know. I mean, I sometimes I find like there's almost like people will assume that when you go to these kind of meetings or whatever, that there's a seeking for an answer, or that you know, like, here it's really just this enjoyment. It's
yeah, yeah,
obviously with their preferences, one speaker, but I mean, there's no real speaker either. So it's just, you know, like the way it's communicated through the one character over another, maybe,
mm, mm,
um, but it's just yeah, I think something relaxes. And here I also found that for me, for like many times when there was like some creative activity, for example, and there was a sense of like self-forgetting, you know, like you are kind of absent because there's just, I don't know, doing photography or whatever, and there's no me in that moment. I mean, as a contracted energy, you can still have these moments, and always found them so adorable. I think that is the longing a little bit of that absence, you know. I mean, we
mm.
have that longing, or human beings have a longing for being actually not there in a
Yeah,
way. And already they're not there, but you know,
yeah,
it's kind of like a joke, but yeah, yeah.
yes. And simultaneously wanting to be there when they aren't there.
Yeah,
I want to be around when the absence happens. It's like a child,
exactly.
Christmas Eve, yeah.
Wanting
I wanna-
to claim the gift, you know, like sort of like, yeah, but I was there and I experienced it. I think it's probably the thing with psychedelics or so, where they, you know, say like, okay, when you try them, there's still someone reporting, you know, like I was, you know, that's my experience or whatever, and it's so not this. I mean, that's just something completely different, yeah,
Mm,
seems,
mm,
which is also this, of course, but yeah.
mm.
But it's, as you say, like there's this character that still wants to be there and claim it and say, okay,
Yes, yes.
I have this experience now. Yeah. I mean, so many things are used to build an identity, it seems, in the story, you know, beliefs and opinions and being against something, for something, preferences, your story, your journey, all of this, like kind of like, and it's all empty. It's
That's
wild.
wonderfully empty, yeah,
Yeah,
wonderfully meaningless,
wild.
wonderfully full, and totally, immediately, passionately alive. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm. So Istanbul, this is in Turkey, right?
Yes,
That's
it's
the
in Turkey.
capital of
No,
Turkey.
it's not the capital actually,
Oh,
but it's a huge city. Like we have
sure.
18, I think 16 or 18 million people here at the
Yeah,
moment, and it's just really huge. And yeah,
yeah.
so very,
And
very
geography is not great with Alexis, but is Turkey near Hungary at all? Or
sort of, yeah. For me, it's also not great, but it's more like a neighbor of Bulgaria. But yeah, it's kind of not too far from Hungary,
okay,
maybe. Yeah, yeah.
okay. Well, I've been invited to come to Budapest anyway, so
Oh, Budapest is great. I've been there like I think once. Yeah, it's a great city.
yeah.
Lovely
So if
city.
you if you want to come, then do.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I think as I said, like the more the travel, the idea was more like to go to a couple meetings, because, you know, just the curiosity and not really
Yeah,
with a
just for
goal
some.
or anything, and the fun of travel, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice. It's kind of, there's so much content available online as well. But yeah. But
Mm.
anyway, I'm traveling quite a bit still, it seems, this character. So could be another location as well. Could be the UK or whatever. Yeah.
Mm.
No, it's lovely. I mean, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of joy for this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it is that makes that causes this relaxation, I guess,
Mhm.
for so many people as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
You ever speak about it with people in any way?
Not really. Like I had one or two situations where it came up like sort of like other people attending the Zoom and then talking in private. But that also kind of like it's a very it faded as a memory so quickly. Like it kind of it seemed to appear and as you say, like in the same moment, or it
Mhm.
kind of disappeared again. And not really, no, not so I love the for example, I went to Kenneth's meeting in Brussels, and that was lovely. It was a lovely atmosphere, really nice people, and it's just nice to have the occasion sometimes to talk about this, yeah. But not that it's a need here to talk about it a lot, but love listening to it, and yeah.
Mm. Mm.
But for you, it just came up that you wanted to start talking about it, or immediately, or gradually as well.
Well, what was seeming to happen with Alexis is that the you know basking in the basking with Tony, listening to him, is mainly watching YouTube videos, and I called him a
Mm-hmm.
few times on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was actually teaching Qigong on a
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday evening, and then as quite a apparently significant glimpse happened where I was listening to him. It came up in a few meetings, but I haven't mentioned it that much. But it was just one evening where I totally disappeared, and all that was left was hand. Like the hand had never been hand before.
Mm-hmm.
It was extraordinary, just indescribable, and that seemed to like really kick off a death and dying illusory process. Really, it's the only way in which words can seem to point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that seemed to happen, and then like a little while went on, and talking started to happen. So the qigong class became a non-duality meeting because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to teach anymore. I didn't want to teach practices. I wanted to talk about this instead, and so the talking
Mm-hmm.
happened at this place, the cafe,
Oh, okay.
um, and and it seemed to assist the unraveling. And
Uh-huh.
as this spoke, it seemed to affirm that no one was behind the words, that no one
Mm-hmm.
was saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's just, yeah, just enjoying, there's just an enjoyment. And then, yeah, the momentum of gathering, like talking with people and all sorts of things happening. And then getting invited to meetings and to places to do meetings and
Yeah, so you were
yeah,
invited to quite a few really cool places as well,
yeah,
aren't you?
yeah,
Yeah, New York, for example, one of my favorite cities. Oh,
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, great. Yeah.
yeah, it's quite amazing really. So
Mm.
it just has a life. It's an apparent life without anyone in it of its
Yeah.
own. Yeah, yeah,
So do
yeah.
you feel for like that in a way as a difference between like the Zoom that you do and then the like the in the cafe or on travels or retreats or like energetically, or what is it
There
kind of
does
different for you?
there does seem to be a difference.
Mm.
But like the last few Zooms that apparently happened, the energy was, it was quite something.
Yeah.
Not that it ever belonged to anyone, but like the last few Zooms were quite
Mm.
palpable. The energy was quite extraordinary, actually.
So much laughter. I mean, as I
Yeah,
said earlier, I love that suddenly, like they're in the middle of something, and then there's suddenly this cracking, like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
yeah. And having said that, of course, bodies in a room is also quite extraordinary. Yeah,
Yeah.
there seems to be a difference, but at the same time, the energy that's being explored and basked in, and then just seemingly all there is it's all there is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It is quite extraordinary, I find sometimes when there is no talking at all as well, you know. And when
Yes.
there is this kind of bodies in the room thing that you're talking about, where there is more silence and
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's literally, actually, in a way, there's nothing to say, and yet there's this in loveness of talking, maybe, or sharing it, or
Mm,
listening to it, and yet it's just all kind of a singing, everything is singing.
mm.
This, in a way, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that is beautiful.
Have there been other speakers for you that where you resonated other than Tony?
So um this felt strong resonance whilst listening to Tony.
Uh-huh.
It felt resonance when listening to Jim, and it also felt resonance whilst listening to Kenneth.
Mm.
I have listened to other people speak, Zabi as well, actually. When we spoke, it was like, the energy, it was like somehow or other the body seems to respond when there's no one. And then when there's someone, it's all meaningless, but it seems to respond. And yeah, I've had chats with obviously other people, which is all lovely. Um, but it was those three in particular that this body energetically, like, oh wow,
Mm.
it was almost like the aroma of nothingness just palpably vibrating the body. It's just incredible. So those three
Mm.
bodies in particular, the body was vibrating, it seemed, but no one else that's been listened to seemed to
Mm.
have that, which doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Of
But
course.
it was just those three that seemed to, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, more or less. I mean, for me, it narrowed down on basically like 90% almost just Kenneth in the end, but it was also like with Jim and Tony, it was also, yeah,
yeah,
similarly. I mean, the clarity and as you say, like everyone, there's a different flavor to each character,
yes,
but
yeah,
to the expression, but I very much enjoy the clarity. For example, with Kenneth, that it's just this kind of how can I put this? Like completely, in a way, unexcited,
yeah,
like no bullshit, like
yeah.
completely like this fantastic clarity. It's quite amazing, yeah. So yeah,
Mhm. Mm, yes. And
yeah.
the energy, it can be said, is that, people can script this seemingly and
Yes,
talk about it, but
yes,
it's not the same when
it
it's
isn't.
just
It isn't.
spontaneously uttering
And
itself.
you know what? I sometimes I feel like when I listen to that type of speaker, I cannot really put my finger on it, and like it's something is off. It's like this. It
Yeah,
seems like it's the same words. It is, but it feels canned. It feels sort
because
of like,
because it's got an agenda behind it. That's why.
yeah,
All the
yeah,
time, it's not malicious, but all the time there's the sense that someone is behind the speaking and the whatever. It's with an agenda, and therefore it's not non-duality, because it's agenda based, regardless of what words are being used. You could
mm,
be speaking any language, but when there's that energy seemingly behind, it's
yeah.
just it's not the same. And that's not bad or wrong, but it's not the
No,
same. Yeah,
it's not the same. It's.
yeah. Energetically, the body seems to respond differently.
Hmm.
Mm.
I like what you said about the speaking of same. You said something about like it's actually not not different, but also not the same. Like
Yeah,
about the sameness and different. Like that
yeah,
totally resonated here as well. Like because for the rational mind as a person, it's either that or what do you mean? Like is it this or that? It's either this. What do you mean? It's both or neither or do you know what I mean? It's like so completely beyond
yeah.
any logic, or it's so beautifully nonsensical, and yet
It
it makes
is
total sense.
beautifully nonsensical. Yeah, because sameness and difference requires two, and this just totally collapses.
Yeah.
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 You know, to say we are all the same or we are all connected implies that there's a we that are all different or all apart, yet we're all the same. It's like, no, there's no sameness or difference at all. There's not
Mm.
even equality. There's just nothing being everything. Yeah.
Mm.
Immediate.
Yeah.
It's the only word that I've discovered or that this uses that just gets as though you could get closer or further away. It's like the word that just really seems to get the closest to what
Mm.
this is, but even that doesn't quite do it. But no other word seems to get that. It's like immediate because there's no dimension, there's no anything else.
There's
It's
no gap. There's no, yeah.
just so totally everything. Yeah.
Gapless. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. It is something like sometimes I find that there's like a focusing on the words, like what do you mean energy? Or do you know, like or why do you say what is that? Like why do you call it this? Or why is it unconditional love or whatever? And
Mm.
I think the idea is often that love is heard in like this kind of personal love, you know,
Yes.
or and,
The distorted idea as to what love actually is. Yeah.
mm. It can't be talked about, and yet it's beautifully talked about, and it's it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Lovely.
Uncompromising.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, these are all words in the end, but yeah,
mm,
it kind of it seems to resonate in a way. Like, yeah, as you said, like there's no agenda, and once you've kind of there has been this sense for this, you know, it can, as I said, we cannot unhear it or kind of go back to the more like, okay, now, you know, concept and path and going somewhere and
mhm,
being someone. It's just
mhm,
sort of irreversible.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. Well, it's been lovely chatting, Yasmin.
Same here.
Yeah. And if you ever want to join a Zoom just for the fun of it, you're always welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
There's quite a few going on at the moment. So if ever you just feel like dropping in, even just to say hello, that would be lovely without expectation. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh,
Oh, can you hear me now?
yes,
All
yeah.
right. Yeah, something seems to always pop up in my feed, you know, on YouTube. It's really nice. There are lots of talks that I'm like kind of like catching up now because I just recently discovered your talks,
Yeah.
and yeah, so a lot of fun. But thanks
Mm, mm,
very much. I enjoyed it very much as well.
mm, yeah. Yeah. And maybe we'll meet up someday in Istanbul or Hungary
Who
or New
knows?
York or somewhere or the UK.
Elsewhere, yeah, wherever, yeah, could be. Who knows? Yeah, who knows what happens? Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Well, if you want to come to New York,
I'd love to.
when is it? It's gosh, it's about
But it's in the summer, isn't it? Like I'm,
yeah,
yeah,
about
kind of here
6
in the
weeks.
summer. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But maybe you'll be somewhere else in Europe or whatever,
Yeah.
or maybe yeah.
See what
Who knows?
happens. Yeah.
See what happens exactly. Yeah, see what happens. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so much love to you.
Yeah. So much love to you back.
Well, it's lovely, lovely chatting.
Lovely chatting. Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. Shall we leave it here?
Yeah, we can really leave it here.
Okay. So I'll say goodbye now then, yeah?
Okay.
All
Much
right.
love. Bye
Much love.
bye.
Stay in touch.
Yes, you too. Bye bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.